All right, let's jump right in and dive deep today
Yeah.
into one of hip-hop's most intriguing and tragic stories,
Mm-hmm.
the intertwined lives of Biggie Smalls and Tupac Shakur.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, everyone knows about the East Coast-West Coast rivalry
Right.
and how it all ended.
Of course.
But did you know that these two
Hmm.
were actually pretty close friends
Yeah.
before things went bad?
It's true.
So today we're going to try to uncover how and why their friendship turned fatal
Right.
and explore what led to their untimely deaths.
It's a story full of twists and turns, and a lot of the story has been kind of obscured by myth and just speculation over the years.
Totally. So to set the scene,
Okay.
let's rewind back to the early 90s.
Hmm.
Tupac was already making a name for himself, and guess what?
What?
He took young Biggie under his wing.
Really?
Yeah, he actually gave him advice and helped him navigate the industry.
It's amazing to think of Tupac as like a mentor figure.
Yeah.
He was known for his intensity and rebellious spirit.
But clearly he saw something special in Biggie.
What do you think he saw in him back then?
Well,
I mean, Biggie actually wanted Tupac to be his manager.
yeah, he did.
Wow.
But Tupac kind of showing maybe a level of self-awareness that we don't really think about when we think about Tupac.
Ah,
You know,
right.
he advised him to stick with Puff Daddy.
Oh, wow.
It makes you wonder how things might have unfolded if Biggie had taken him up on that offer.
Yeah, for sure. And to get a sense of their bond in those early days,
Okay.
there's this video of them freestyling together
Oh, I've seen that.
at a party.
Yeah.
I mean, those freestyle sessions were such an important part of hip hop back then.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
It was just pure improv and lyrical skill and just feeding off of each other's energy.
Yeah, you can see the camaraderie.
Right.
They're just two young guys passionate about the music, having a good time.
Such a stark contrast to the animosity that would define their relationship later.
It really is, right? It's crazy.
Yeah, and you can really feel the energy in those sessions. Oh, yeah.
They're clearly on the same wavelength.
Totally.
But as we know, things took a dramatic turn.
Yeah.
November 30, 1994.
Okay.
That's the date that everything changed.
Hmm.
Tupac goes to Quad Studios in New York
Yeah.
to record with Lil Cease,
Mm-hmm.
who was part of Biggie's junior MAFIA crew.
Right.
And that's where he's ambushed and shot 5 times.
The Quad Studio shooting was a turning point for sure.
Oh, yeah.
It's really where the myth and reality blurs and different narratives start to emerge.
Yeah,
I mean, Tupac survived the attack,
he did.
but it really shook him up, and he was very suspicious after that.
Yeah.
He believed, rightly or wrongly, that Biggie and Diddy were somehow involved.
And they denied any involvement,
They did.
but the damage was done.
Oh, for sure.
That incident really created this huge rift between them.
Yeah, the trust was broken at that point.
Right.
And then to add fuel to the fire, Biggie releases Who Shot Ya?
Oh, man, that track.
Yeah.
I mean, it really poured gasoline on an already burning fire, right?
Exactly. And even though Biggie claimed he recorded it before the shooting,
Right.
it was seen by many.
Especially Tupac.
Yeah, as a direct taunt.
Like, come on.
It's hard to say for sure what Biggie's intentions were.
Yeah.
Was it a coincidence, a deliberate provocation, or something in between?
Right.
Whatever it was perceived by Tupac and his camp as a sign of disrespect.
Yeah,
And it further escalated the tension between them.
totally. And then to make things even more complicated,
Okay.
Tupac ends up in prison for a sexual assault case.
Right.
But even behind bars, he continued to fuel the fire,
Yeah.
publicly accusing Biggie and Bad Boy of setting him up.
Prison definitely hardened Tupac.
Yeah,
It fueled his paranoia and his sense of betrayal.
right.
And this is where a new figure kind of enters the scene that would play a pivotal role in the drama.
Okay.
Suge Knight,
Suge Knight.
the head of Death Row Records.
Yeah, he was notorious even back then
Oh, yeah.
for his aggressive tactics and connections to the street.
Suge saw an opportunity. He bailed Tupac out of prison and signed him to death row.
Wow.
And essentially used this East Coast, West Coast rivalry to his advantage.
So the rivalry went beyond just two rappers beefing.
Yeah.
It became this whole East Coast versus West Coast thing.
Yeah.
It was being blown up by the media and the record labels.
Yeah, it was this perfect storm of personal grudges
Right.
and business competition and media sensationalism.
Wow.
In this environment, things were bound to escalate.
They did.
Yeah.
They're going to hit him up. Right.
Hit 'em up, the diss track heard round the world.
I remember when it dropped, Tupac went all in.
Yeah.
directly attacking Biggie and Puffy, and even Faith Evans, Biggie's wife at the time.
Hit 'Em Up
Yeah.
is arguably the most scathing diss track in hip-hop history.
Yeah.
It was raw, aggressive, fueled by genuine anger and hurt.
Yeah.
It took the rivalry to a whole new level of public intensity.
So how did Biggie respond to all of this?
His responses were a lot more subtle.
Yeah.
He never directly addressed Tupac by name, but he definitely hinted at the conflict in his lyrics.
Right.
But by that point, the narrative was set, you know?
Yeah.
This wasn't just a war of words anymore. It
Yeah.
felt like a tragedy in the making.
Okay, so we've got this escalating feud fueled by distrust, personal animosity, and shrewd manipulation by these industry players.
Yeah.
Where do we go from here? So we left off with this powder keg of a situation with Biggie and Tupac.
Yeah.
Where does it all go from here?
Sadly, things spiral even further downward.
Yeah.
We know the ending to the story is tragic, and it starts to unfold in September of '96.
Okay.
Tupac is in Las Vegas for the Mike Tyson fight.
Right.
He's riding in Suge Knight's car,
Okay.
leaving the fight,
Mm-hmm.
when they're stopped at a red light.
Okay.
A white Cadillac pulls up beside them,
Man.
and shots ring out.
Wow.
Tupac is hit multiple times.
Just picturing that scene.
I know.
It must have been pure chaos.
It was,
Wow.
and tragically, 6 days later, Tupac succumbs to his injuries. The hip-hop world,
Yeah.
and frankly, the world at large,
Right.
was in shock.
I remember hearing about it on the news.
Yeah,
It felt like a part of our generation had died.
I know.
It's crazy to think his murder still remains unsolved.
Yeah, you're right. The case is still open.
Oh.
There's so many theories out there,
Yeah.
and it seems like everyone has an opinion on who is behind it.
Let's unpack some of those theories.
Okay.
One of the most prominent ones involves the brawl that Tupac and his entourage had
Right.
with a Crip gang member just hours before the shooting.
Yeah.
It was all caught on those casino security cameras.
Mm-hmm.
Could that have been a retaliation hit?
It's certainly a possibility.
Yep.
The Crips are a very powerful gang
Right.
with a history of violence, and revenge is a very powerful motive.
Right.
But there are some holes in that theory.
Like what?
Why wait hours to strike?
Yeah.
And why target Tupac specifically
Okay.
when Suge Knight, who was known to have ties to the Bloods,
Right. A rival gang to the Crips.
exactly, was also in the car?
Yeah, that doesn't add up.
It doesn't quite add up.
What are some of the other theories?
Well, there's a theory that it was an inside job,
Meaning,
possibly orchestrated by someone within Death Row Records.
whoa. You mean someone from Suge Knight's own label might have had Tupac killed?
It's a possibility.
That's intense.
Yeah.
What would the motive for something like that be?
Well, there were rumors that Tupac was planning to leave Death Row. He
Right.
was their biggest star.
Yeah.
And if he walked away, it would have been a massive financial blow to them.
Right.
Some people believe that Suge might have seen Tupac as more valuable dead than alive,
Wow.
especially with the life insurance policies and the potential for posthumous album sales.
Yeah, that's cold-blooded.
It is.
But wouldn't that mean that Suge was risking his own life being in the car with Tupac?
Yeah, that's one of the big inconsistencies with that theory.
Right, he got hit too.
Yeah, was Suge truly a target, or was it just a way to make it look like he wasn't involved? It's really hard to say for sure.
Yeah. And of course, we can't forget about the theory that implicates Biggie and Bad Boy in Tupac's death.
Right, with the East Coast West Coast feud at its peak,
Yeah.
many people believed that Biggie or someone in his circle orchestrated the hit as revenge for the Quad studio shooting.
Yeah.
There were rumors of a substantial bounty on Tupac's head.
But was there any evidence to support that?
To this day, nothing concrete has ever linked Biggie or anyone from Bad Boy to Tupac's murder.
Right.
It's mainly speculation fueled by the rivalry and street rumors.
Yeah.
We also have to remember that the media played a huge role in amplifying this feud.
Oh, for sure.
They were constantly pushing that East Coast versus West Coast narrative, and it definitely contributed to the tension and the violence.
So in the end, we're left with a bunch of theories
Yeah.
and no definitive answers.
It's a mystery.
It's almost like a modern-day whodunit.
You hit the nail on the head.
Yeah.
It's a mystery that continues to fascinate and frustrate people to this day.
And then just 6 months after Tupac's death,
Yeah.
Biggie is murdered in almost the exact same way.
It's eerie.
Yeah, leaving a party in L.A., stopped at a red light, a drive-by shooting.
Yeah, the parallels are definitely striking.
It's crazy.
And of course, it sparked immediate speculation about a connection.
Right.
The most prevalent theory is that Biggie's death was revenge for Tupac, ordered by Death Row or figures associated with the Bloods.
So basically an eye for an eye.
Right.
It does seem to make sense given the context.
It does, but again, the lack of concrete evidence is a problem.
Right.
As with Tupac's murder, nothing definitively links Death Row to Biggie's death.
So who else could have been behind it?
Well, some people believe that corrupt police officers might have been involved, either by turning a blind eye or actively participating in the hit.
Wow.
There were a lot of rumors about cops with ties to Death Row,
Okay.
and some even speculated that Biggie's murder was a way to surveillance him before he could testify about what he knew about Tupac's death.
It sounds like we're going down a rabbit hole here.
We might be.
Are there any other theories?
Well, we can't rule out the possibility that Biggie's death was completely unrelated to Tupac's.
Right.
He could have been targeted for entirely different reasons.
That's a good point.
You know, remember, Biggie was a major figure in the music industry, and there were undoubtedly people who were jealous of his success.
For sure.
Or who felt he had wronged them in some way.
Right. It's easy to get caught up in the Biggie Tupac narrative.
Yeah.
But we have to remember that they were both individuals with their own separate lives and potential conflicts.
It's a complex web,
Yeah.
and it's impossible to say with certainty what happened.
Right.
Despite countless investigations, documentaries, and books dedicated to uncovering the truth, we're left with more questions than answers.
It's a shame that we may never know the full story.
It is.
I imagine it's incredibly frustrating.
For sure.
For their families and friends. Not to mention, there are millions of fans around the world.
Yeah.
They deserve answers.
They do, but what we can do is remember the human cost of this rivalry.
Right.
We're talking about two young, incredibly talented artists whose lives were cut tragically short.
Yeah.
Their potential was limitless.
It really was.
And their deaths left a void in the music world that is still felt today.
It's heartbreaking. And beyond the music, their deaths had this ripple effect on the whole hip-hop community.
Oh, yeah.
Some say it contributed to the decline of gangster rap's golden age and fueled a sense of paranoia and fear within the industry.
It's true. Their deaths served as a wake-up call.
Yeah.
You know, it showed how quickly things could spiral out of control and made people realize that words have power.
Absolutely.
Rivalries, especially those fueled by media hype and industry pressure, can have devastating consequences.
So in a way, their story is like a cautionary tale.
It is.
A reminder that even amidst all the fame and fortune, there are real dangers and real consequences.
Absolutely. And it's also a reminder that we need to be careful about the narratives that we create.
Yeah.
And the power that we give to those who profit from conflict and division.
That's a good point. Well, we've covered a lot of ground.
Yeah.
And this is all pretty heavy stuff.
It is.
But despite the tragedy, there's this incredible legacy.
Right.
I mean, Biggie and Tupac's music continues to inspire and influence artists to this day.
They were pioneers.
Yeah.
Innovators. And their impact goes way beyond hip-hop.
Yeah. So as we move on to the final part of our deep dive,
Okay.
let's explore their legacy in more detail.
Right.
How has their music shaped hip-hop and culture in general?
Yeah.
And what would they think of their impact if they were still alive today? Okay, so we've explored the rise and fall of Biggie and Tupac's friendship.
Right.
Tragic events that led to their deaths and the mysteries that still surround those cases. But now I think it's time to shift gears a little bit and talk about their legacy.
Yeah.
I mean, these two weren't just rappers.
No.
They're icons.
Right.
And their influence stretched far beyond music.
Absolutely. Their impact on hip-hop, on fashion, on language.
Yeah.
It's undeniable.
Even decades after they're gone, their music continues to inspire new generations of artists and fans.
Absolutely.
So let's break down their musical styles a bit.
Okay.
Biggie was known for his storytelling. Right?
Yeah, for sure.
He could paint these vivid pictures of life on the streets with his smooth flow and intricate rhymes.
Yeah, he had that way of making you feel like you were right there with him, experiencing everything he was describing.
He was funny, insightful.
Yeah.
He was the king of New York storytelling.
Totally. And then you have Tupac, who was this fiery, passionate voice from the West Coast.
Right.
His music had this raw energy, this urgency.
Yeah.
And it was just infused with his political and social consciousness.
Yeah, he wasn't afraid to tackle those complex issues.
No, he wasn't.
Like racism, poverty, police brutality, things that other artists were shying away from at the time.
And he did it with this incredible blend of vulnerability and swagger.
Yeah, it's true.
He could be angry, introspective, defiant,
Yeah.
all in the same song.
His music had this way of grabbing you by the collar and forcing you to pay attention.
Yeah, you couldn't ignore what he was saying.
It's interesting that despite their differences,
Right.
both Biggie and Tupac's music resonated with people from all walks of life.
Totally.
They weren't just speaking to one specific audience.
Yeah, they tapped into these universal themes.
Like what?
The struggles of growing up in poverty, the desire for a better life, the complexities of love and loyalty, the pain of loss and betrayal.
Right.
These are things that people from all backgrounds can relate to. And that's why their music continues to connect with people today.
You know, I remember reading somewhere that Biggie actually innovated the use of multiple rhyme schemes.
Really?
Within a single bar.
Right.
It's like he was pushing the boundaries of what was possible in rap.
He was a master of wordplay and rhythm.
And Tupac wasn't just rapping.
Right.
He was performing.
He brought this incredible intensity to his live shows.
Yeah.
He had this way of connecting with the audience on an emotional level.
Right.
It was electrifying.
They were both pushing hip-hop forward
Totally.
in their own unique ways.
Yeah.
I wonder, how would they have navigated the music industry today with social media, streaming services, the whole online landscape?
It's a fascinating question.
Yeah, the music industry has changed so much since the 90s.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's more global, more digital, more driven by data and algorithms.
It's crazy.
It's hard to say for sure.
Yeah.
But I think Biggie and Tupac both would have adapted and thrived
I think so, too.
in this environment.
Yeah.
I mean, they were both so smart and savvy.
Right.
I could totally see them using social media to connect with their fans, promote their music, control their own narratives.
Yeah.
Maybe they would have even used it to squash their beef.
Maybe.
You know, communicate directly and avoid the media circus that fueled so much of the conflict.
Yeah, maybe. Or maybe social media would just amplify their rivalry even more.
Right, it's a double-edged sword.
Totally.
It can be used to build bridges or to burn them.
That's true.
So much of their story seems to be about missed opportunities.
It does.
You know, about what could have been if things had gone differently.
It's a tragedy on so many levels.
Yeah.
Not just because we lost two incredible artists, but because their deaths left so many unanswered questions.
Like what?
What would their music sound like today?
Yeah.
What would they be saying about the world we live in?
It's crazy.
What kind of impact would they be having on their communities and on the culture?
It's a lot to think about.
It is.
But I think it's important to remember that their legacy isn't just about the tragedy.
Right.
It's about their music, their artistry, their impact on hip-hop.
Yeah.
And on the world.
Their music continues to inspire, to challenge, to make us think.
Yeah.
And in a way, that's a form of immortality. Their voices will continue to be heard. Their stories will continue to be told.
Right.
And their legacy will live on for generations to come.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you with a question to ponder.
Okay.
How has the music of Biggie and Tupac shaped your own understanding of hip-hop, of that era, of the power and pitfalls of fame and rivalry?
Yeah.
Their story is a complex one full of darkness and light.
It is.
And I think there are lessons to be learned.
For sure.
From both their triumphs and their tragedies.
Absolutely.
Thanks for joining us on this journey.